Welcome to Bandit's Keep. I'm Daniel. In this video, we're going to take the Cleric versus Undead chart and turn it into a skill system for old school Dungeons & Dragons. So I mentioned this during my Undead video a few weeks back, and people seemed interested, so I'm going to run through how we'll do this. It's a pretty simple system, and I'll say up front that I prefer, when I'm creating something new for the game, to look to see what exists and modify it. That's generally my go-to. Sometimes it can be fun just to create something whole cloth, but if we take a system that already exists in the game, we can assume that, at least on some level, it's going to work without conflicting too much with other things. So we're going to look at Cleric versus Undead. I'll talk briefly about how that works, just in case it's new to you, and then we'll talk about how we can turn it into a skill system. If you're not familiar with BX or Original Dungeons & Dragons or any of those kind of things, links to those games will be in the description below if you want to check them out. In any case, let's get to it. On my iPad here, we're looking in the expert book, the Moldvay expert book, as it would be, or Cook Marsh expert, I should say. So basically what we have here is our clerics level here versus the various types of undead. And if we look at the undead, we can see that skeletons are 1-hit die. Zombies are 2-hit dice. Ghouls, well, yeah. Ghouls are 2-hit dice as well in BX, but in original Dungeons & Dragons, skeletons were half, zombies were 1, ghouls were 2. So anyways, wights are 3, wraiths are 4, mummies 5, etc. as we build up. So basically what we can see here is that we can equate each one of these undead creatures to a level, which is super useful if you want to make, let's say, like a 3-hit die skeleton. How would a cleric turn that? Well, we would just look at the third column, which would be the ghoul, right? So if you want to use a 3-hit die skeleton for higher level characters, just use the ghoul for the turning of the undead. Or you want to make a 7 or 8-hit die, you can look at things like vampires and stuff, right? So we can very easily do that with this. So that's great in and of itself. But how does this correspond to skills? Well, everything here is based on levels, right? We have a level of cleric. That could be level of anybody, right? So if we just reference this chart and we say level of character and we look at skeleton as level 1 challenge, we can say that a first level character on the first level of the dungeon trying to complete some kind of skill would need a 7 or better. And the way this works is you roll 2d6, add them together, equal to or greater is a success. This means if that same character goes down a set of stairs, they're still first level, now they're on the second level of the dungeon, to do that same task is going to need a 9. On the third level, an 11, and on the fourth level, they wouldn't be able to do it. They're not skilled enough. What could these tasks be? Reading weird writings on the walls, finding their way through a maze, picking a lock if we want to use it to replace thieves' skills. We could use it for any number of skills that we want to use, and this really adds a lot. Now, you could, of course, if you want to get a little more complex, you could have ability score modifiers affect this and so on. But I will say that in BX, for instance, you can have up to a +3, and that will really throw this thing off. So I probably wouldn't do that. But what I might do is I might scale things. So for instance, let's say we're on the third level of the dungeon, but it's an easy lock to pick. Well, then I might treat it as a level 2, right? If I'm on the first level of the dungeon and it's a hard lock to pick, I might treat it as a level 2. So it could be that you're a first level thief, you go to pick a lock on the first level of the dungeon, but you need a 9 because it's a very hard lock. This still gives you some variation of easy locks, hard locks, normal locks, or even just doors to bust open, maps to figure out, whatever you want to use a skill system for. So we can see here it goes from cleric level 1 to 11 plus, and then vampire is effectively 8 on this. So let's see if we break this down. I'm going to jump over to my pages document here, and we can see I have it now broken down like this. But there are 2 other things on this. We have a T, which in the case of turning undead means they automatically turn. And then we have a D, which means they destroy the undead. So it's a higher level turn. How do we deal with that? Well, the way I would do it is a T result means they automatically succeed. So a second level thief on the first level of the dungeon can pick any lock. They don't have to roll at all. They can pick. That's fine. That's easy, right? But what about D? Well, I feel like D would be like success with some advantage or some bonus. So normally, for instance, in BX or Original Dungeons & Dragons, it takes 1 full turn to do something like pick a lock or whatever. Maybe if they have a D, it doesn't take that at all. It takes half a turn or less, or they can instantly do it, or maybe they can do it really quietly. maybe they can double up the task and say, okay, I'm going to open the lock and be super quiet as I listen at the door, right? Or something to that effect. And you'll give them a double task that they can succeed at. This allows us to, without changing the chart too much. And also it makes it so it's a little bit more interesting, because when you get to be a 4th level thief on the first level of the dungeon, sure, you can just walk through the locks, but shouldn't you also be able to open that lock super quietly and surprise what's on the other side? I think so. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a little note of that. So I've got at the bottom, roll 2d6 equal to or over target number to succeed. T is auto success. D is going to be success with a bonus. Now, of course, much like games like Dungeon World games or Powered by the Apocalypse, I should say, it's not always going to be narrative easy to add a bonus. Sometimes it just won't be, and it just is what it is, right? But I think some of the things, like doing it quicker, doing it quiet, doing it with no tools, whatever you want to do, that could really work for these kind of situations. So that's what I would do here. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to now reference this chart, and just so you can see that there is a rhythm going on here. If we look at the first level, we've got 7, 9, 11, and then no, which means, obviously a dash means they can't do it. Then we've got automatic, then 7, 9, 11 for second level people. Then we've got automatic, 7, 9, 11, and then automatic with bonus, automatic, 7, 9, 11. So you can see a pattern, right? We can see this pattern here. So in order to complete this chart to go all the ways to, let's say 14th level, and I'll just go 14 the other way too. Although if you're at the 14th level of a dungeon, well, again, it doesn't have to, I should say too that the simplest way to do this is to correspond it to a dungeon level, right? You're in the 3rd level of the dungeon, it's a 3rd level challenge. But what do we do in the wilderness? Let's say you're going to track a monster, let's say a dragon, 8 hit dice dragon. Well, to track the 8 hit dice dragon, and maybe it'd be easy to track a dragon, right? But it might be hard to track a dragon and not be seen, right? So in order to track that 8 hit die dragon, if you're at level 1 through 5, you're not going to be able to do it. The dragon's too smart. At level 6, you can barely have a chance. At level 7, a little bit better chance. At level 8, you've got a decent chance. And at level 9, you can track that dragon automatically. At level 11, maybe you can track it and figure out where it's sleeping, or maybe time it right so you can steal some treasure, whatever the bonus might be. So let's take a quick look at this. I have a very strong feeling that there's going to be a lot of D's in this. So I'm just going to fill this out and we'll go forward. Okay, so we got it all figured out. It filled out as a chart, and just like old school D&D, we got to have charts for everything. But really, the math is pretty simple. If it's at your level, you got a 7, right? If it's 1 level higher, so it's a 2nd level task in your 1st level, you need a 9. If it's 2 levels higher, you need an 11. And if it's 3 or more levels higher, you just can't do it yet. And as you advance, you'll be able to do it. So those are, some tasks are going to be impossible. If something is a level below you, you can automatically do it. If it's more than 2 levels below you, so 3 levels below you or more, you can do it and you get a bonus. You're a 4th level character, 1st level stuff is just not a challenge to you anymore. That's just the way it is. Real simple. And adding that extra little bit, hey, you get a bonus, is kind of fun. Again, you don't have to do that. You could just make it an automatic success past that level, but I like the little bonus thing. In fact, you could even work it up to the point where, like, if after 3 of the D's, maybe there's an E. That's something extra, right? Who knows, right? You could play around with this all you like. I will print this out as a PDF and put a link to it so you guys can download a copy if you want to mess around with this and use it in your system. I would love to hear how you use it. Go ahead and check the show notes for that. Also down there, you're going to find a link to my Discord server. Join me over there for all kinds of fun conversations. And you'll find a link to my Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. That way, I would appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you soon.